And we're recording. Okay, hello and welcome to the AfterParty, Conversations with SpyParty Players. Today I'm joined by Toboshi.
Hello.
Hello. So, you and Warning Track recently had a pretty cool event on the SpyParty Twitch channel and eventually YouTube channel, which was,
Yeah, that was awesome.
yeah, which was broadcasting the tournament finals of the New Art tournament.
It was indeed. Man, that was awesome. I had so much fun with that.
Yeah, you've done a lot of previous Spy Party casting with Crazy Kaylee. Is that right?
Yeah, I've done quite a bit. I've done it with Warning Track for a while. I did it with Crazy Kaylee a while when we were doing the
The now
ladder.
defunct
I
ladder cast.
believe
Yeah.
I believe the Spy on the Hill business was with Warning Track. I've done actually a considerable amount of casting from way the hell back when we were just like restreaming other people's streams with commentary on it.
Oh wow! So before replays.
Oh yeah, like I've been doing this since closed beta.
Woo! It's a long time. Yeah. How long have you been in the beta? Like uh
How long have I been in the beta? I don't remember exactly. I can probably check how long it's been, but I've been here since I believe since I think it was Veranda was like a relatively new thing.
whoa, that is a long time.
It's been like like I can't remember what it was exactly, but it was like my brother got um one of the really early invites for it, and then he just like emailed Checker asking if he can get me in too, and he said yes.
Awesome.
So it was fantastic.
Nice. Yeah, I did that for a friend, but they ended up not liking the game, so I was like, okay, now I've got a spare account. That's fine. Cool. So wait, that's how you'd heard about the game? It was something that your brother had actually been reading about?
Yes, actually, that's how I was introduced to Spy Party. Ben just found it and it looked cool, so I signed up for it. And he got his email first, and then he got mine pushed through. And I haven't gone back since.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, so that's how you got into the game. I assume it was sort of like love at first sight. You were just like, this game's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. But always found it surprisingly stressful to play.
Yeah, it's I heard about that ahead of time, so I was like anticipating like, oh, this is gonna be really stressful, isn't it? And I was like, oh, really stressful.
Yeah,
But I don't know. I feel like as you play, you get acclimated to it. It's just like the water that you swim in is this suffused stressness. So it's like,
yeah,
this is just the way it is.
yeah. You get used to it. You definitely get used to it.
Hmm.
It
But
just I think it takes longer for some people than others, and I think a lot of people aren't willing to stick with it long enough to really get used to it, which is a shame.
yeah, but I feel like that's more a case of accessibility than the like uh,
That's also very true.
stress aesthetic of the game. But yeah, so you were in it for a long time. Then what got you interested in doing castings of people playing the game?
Uh well, I think it was a combination of a few things. Back then I was doing YouTube stuff, and the I really enjoyed making the YouTube stuff, but at the same time I really did not enjoy editing together the YouTube stuff. Um, and that's also around the time I started finding Twitch and watching a lot of that and seeing how people were doing basically all the editing I wanted to do on the fly.
Hmm.
Um, so I decided I wanted to start doing that, and it turned out being exactly what I thought it would be. And shoutcasting in particular is something just I've always found really cool because gaming in general is this big, like oft criticized thing that I've devoted so much of my time and I guess my life to, actually.
Yeah.
Um, that I just kind of love the idea of not only sharing my love of gaming with other people, but turning it into like an event, like turning it into a spectacle. It's always been something I've been a huge fan of, and when I came into SpyParty, it's the thing that I found that not only um, I knew how to do, and I thought it was a game I thought I could cast with some competency, but also there was nobody else doing it at the time because it was such a new game
Hmm.
that I figured I'd never have an opportunity as good as that, and I tried it and I loved it and it was great.
Awesome. Yeah, it's also kind of exciting because that there's that as you said, like open fieldness to it where it's like, holy shit, this is this like awesome niche I can get into before anyone else does, like while the going's
Yeah,
good.
exactly.
But also is Spy Party has this really like distinct flavor to it, and I think that gives
Oh
it
yeah,
something sort
absolutely.
of exciting and unique for casting. It's sort of like the feel of it is very different from other games like LoL or Dota
Oh
that you can
yes.
cast. So like what sort of I guess like characteristics of the game do you think make it good for casting?
To be honest, I don't think it's a very good game for casting.
No?
I
Okay.
really don't.
Okay.
Like,
Well, all right. Well,
it's
what makes it not so great for casting then?
okay. The characteristics I think of a game that um, is good for casting is something that's generally visually interesting and fairly easy to follow. Now, Spy Party, in a general sense, is kind of neither of those things. If you don't know what's going on, it's a very difficult game to follow because it just kind of looks like a bunch of people walking around in a room from two different camera angles.
Hmm.
And then, as far as visually interesting goes, it's a very pretty game with the new art. Um, but there's again not really a whole lot going on for people to latch onto. Um, so yeah, I think casting it because of that becomes a bit of a struggle. But that also kind of changes the cast to be less of a sports cast type of thing and more of like half of that and half of like trying to talk people through what is going on in a more general sense just to make things easier to follow and easier to understand.
Hmm. Which like that sounds like a really big challenge. Is that something that you've gotten to grips with through your experience in casting? Like, do you feel like
Yes,
you
I
have a
think
grip of
so.
how
I
to?
think I could still get better at it. There's definitely room to improve, but like I go back and look at some of my early casts and it was rocky. Let's put it that way. So I've definitely gotten a lot better at it, but I think the teaching side of things I could definitely improve on a fair bit.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. The point you bring up that because there's not a lot of big dynamic actions that take place,
Yeah.
it's hard to watch. And the I guess the main thing is, as you said, it's a game where both players are trying to conceal things. It's not like, in football or something where there's like this one point on the screen that's
Yeah.
always like
Exactly.
in motion and in contest. Hmm.
And to bring it back to more of a shoutcasting analogy, you
Yeah.
look at games like StarCraft, where both people are building up an army and you can see them trying to maneuver around, and then there's a big clash and one person clearly comes out on top. Or games like Dota, where you've got all the towers there, and again, there's a lot of maneuvering going on, but you can clearly see by looking at the screen who is winning usually.
Hmm.
You don't get any of that in Spy Party. So I think having
Well,
like when you're
I
trying to watch
yeah.
it, having someone talking through what's going on and even just giving you a sense of who's in the lead in a certain game and why is going to make, I think, casting probably a much easier way for people to get into watching Spy Party.
Hmm. Yeah, it kind of seems like casting is essential to help bridge the gap that's sort of left by Spy Party not being a visually exciting game. Because I think like you and Warning Track, when you're casting a match, you're not like putting on or pretending to be excited. It's an exciting game. It's just as you're
Yeah,
saying, it's not visually exciting, and so you need the
exactly.
caster there to be like, I guess, a point of empathy to like tell you, okay,
Yeah,
this is why this like person picking up a drink is the most exciting thing happening.
exactly. It's a very strange thing because wow, I lost my train of thought there really badly. So what was I saying? It's very interesting in the sense of trying to show people where the excitement is,
Hmm.
um, because oh yeah, I remember what I wanted to say now. Yes, victory. Okay, what I wanted to say was that and I lost it again. Wow, this is
Third time's a
hilarious.
charm. It'll come around.
Third time's yes. I'm sure. Like in the middle of one of my other sentences, um, I'll remember what it was again, and this time I'll actually say it.
So it was
Uh,
probably something to do with the importance of casting in relation to Spy Party.
yes,
It was yeah, it was something along the lines of the thing we were talking about for the last 5 minutes.
it was something along the lines of why trying to show people where the excitement is. I just remembered it again. Spy Party is in a very unique position that the more you know about the game, the more exciting the game becomes to watch. And if you don't know really anything about the game, it is very hard to find anything exciting to watch in a match of Spy Party.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm, as a caster, I think, trying very hard to explain to people, like not only to show them where the exciting bits are, but to explain to them why these things are exciting and why they're interesting, and basically just guiding them through a match of Spy Party from the perspective of someone who has the kind of knowledge that maybe they haven't acquired yet.
Yeah. It it feels like that's really important, not even just from like advertising the game, because I think it works really well in that sense of like showing people, hey, this is why this game is exciting, but also for like
Yeah, I think so too.
teaching people how to play. Like this is something Gano mentioned in the previous cast was that he learnt a lot about how to play the game by watching people stream.
Yeah, that's like the main way I got into the game as well. Because before I got in the beta, there was a guy named Titleist who I was watching a whole lot of. So by the time I actually got my invite and got into the game and started playing it, I already more or less knew how things worked, and I
Huh.
could understand the strategies on a fairly basic level, but I
Right.
knew how things happened and what I needed to do. I still had to iron out like pathing and things like that, but
Yeah,
like
we're
things
we're gonna get
already
to your
kind of
catchphrase
made
in a
sense
minute
to me
about that.
because of the streaming.
Yeah. That's interesting. Like, what were the mechanical stuff things pretty easy to learn after that?
Yeah, I think so. I think learning how to path properly was the hardest part by far, um, because like despite the fact that the game is not an intuitive game, the controls are actually very good. like
Yeah.
it feels a little bit awkward at first moving around just because you're confined to the four axes, but you get used to it quite quickly. It's just the finer points of how to manipulate that to do some of the finer movements that takes some practice. But that it really just is playing the game a bit and getting used to how it feels.
Hmm. Yeah. At the moment, I guess the trickiest thing for people to learn is the idea of uh, what your affordances on the two mouse buttons, how they change constantly depending on where you are and where other people are. That is probably the
Yeah,
trickiest thing to learn.
lots of accidental banana breads.
Lots of accidental banana roads, but
I
it
remember
yeah.
there was this joke me and my brother used to tell about whenever you would walk into a conversation and immediately try to flirt and BB instead because that's where the action priorities are and you didn't realize the DA was there. Um, because you don't have that kind of perception when you're just starting out at the game.
Yeah.
I remember my brother at one point we were playing together and he did that, and after the game he basically just said, "Hey baby, you want to come back to my place and make some sweet banana bread?"
Ah dear. Does he still play, your brother?
Yes.
Awesome.
No, he doesn't really.
Oh,
Um, yeah.
ah well. At least he got you into
It
it.
was. I think for him. I think for him it was just that generally he plays games as a method to unwind and take his mind off things, and Spy Party
And
just
this
was
is not
not
that.
doing that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean yeah, like there are plenty of games of that, and Spy Fighter just isn't one of them.
Yeah. It's not a game for the masses, I don't think. It's the kind of game where
Well, I don't know, like I've had this
for a
argument with
lot
Drawn.
of
I don't
people
think that's
it's
true.
not going to be their cup of tea, I don't think.
Yeah.
But for the people that do find it interesting, it's very easy to just completely get lost inside the intricacy of just how everything works in that game and all the subtle little behavioral changes that you can make that affect the game in such a big way.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting to me because you can feel how a lot of the interesting stuff that is happening isn't like happening inside of the game itself. It's happening inside of
Yeah,
the two people inside their heads, which is cool.
yeah. Like even me, like I um don't actually play Spy Party very often, partly because of the stress factor that I still haven't completely gotten over yet. But I find the game utterly fascinating, and I love watching it, and I love watching people play it, and I love streams because I can hear the thoughts of like what people are thinking as they're doing
Yeah.
certain things and whether or not it's working really. But also, I just love watching the parties and how people's actions in and around the parties affect not only the party, but the people's actions as well. It's very interesting.
Well, it's cool because there's an element of randomness to it that's just big enough that it like doesn't dominate the game, but it means that
Yeah,
when something happens, when the spy is taking a risk or the sniper is taking a risk, you know that there's like this slight chance that they'll fail, and it like grabs your attention because you
yeah,
legitimately don't know if they're going to like succeed or not. It's like not very deterministic.
exactly. Green tests versus white tests are a big thing there because um, lots of the really big plays are made on the backs of green tests, and it's just 40.
Sorry, you cut out a bit there. Can you say that again?
Oh, sorry. Basically, what I was saying was like when you were talking about the randomness, um, the green test versus white test versus red test is a very good. way to see that very clearly, because even some of the best players in the game are not going to hit a green test more than like 60% of the time.
Yeah.
Connection lost.
Uh-oh.
Connected.
Hey, you're back. What happened?
I do not know. I'll look into it later. Sorry. So that's the
Okay,
second time
that's
it
fine.
interrupted the sentence. Okay, let's keep going.
We shall continue. Um, but yeah, basically, like the green tests and white tests, the randomness is very interesting there. But as well, like the rest of the party, it's random in such a way that it feels less like randomness and more like behavior. Like when you're getting really bad luck from the seduction target, it doesn't feel like bad luck. It feels like the seduction target is being mean.
Yeah, it's like a changing set of cards, but you know why the cards are changing. It's like, oh, this card had a reason to like go over
Yeah,
there and leave me alone.
exactly.
Yeah, so
It's even though it's completely random, it doesn't really feel like it. It really
it's
does
not a
feel like
black box.
behavioralism.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So casting, as you've sort of shown us, is this like really really important cool thing in Spy Party that does a lot of good. We hope you, Warning Track, and other people continue to like get better at it and find new cool ways to use it to help boost the game. There was a discussion that was happening recently about
Thank you.
yeah, round of applause for Toboshi. There was a conversation that was happening
Yay!
recently. Hey, about suggestions for different forms of casting, and this idea of having a three-person cast where we have one person who's covering play-by-play, and then two people who are like color commentary. What do you think of that idea?
I think that would actually be really interesting, because that kind of bridges the gap a little bit. Because for the newer people, having that play by play and having the explanations is really important. But having two people who really know their way around Spy Party, who can really give some insightful commentary on things, um, I feel like that's a way to not only give newer people an idea of just how much depth is in this game, but it'll also really grab the attention of the people who already know their way around Spy Party really well, because it's talking about the higher strategies that are going on in the game, as well as like the dramatic sort of this is what's happening in the game.
And it's hard to do.
I really do like the idea of a three-person cast. I think it would have to be well controlled, but I think once we got used to it, it would be fantastic.
Hmm. Yeah, it's the color commentary is really hard as well because it requires you to intuit what a player was thinking, and that's hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And there are a lot of times, like, especially, like, we know this from when we have the people who played the game in the chat talking with us, there are a lot of times when me and Warning Track will guess wrong about the reason something happened or why somebody did something. Um, but that just kind of goes to show, like, again, how much depth is in the game and just how much is going on in the heads of these players and how much of these little subtleties happen that you can see if you're looking for it, but even when you're specifically watching the one character are hard to pick up on. Like briefcase cancels, for example, for people who know what that is.
Yeah, totally. And it's kind of useful as well, just from a like, I don't know, social empathy sort of standpoint, in that it sort of like makes you familiar with the fact that like, oh, I can't actually fully understand a person and what they're thinking. I can like try and
Yeah,
grasp at it, but you never know.
it's true. It's very true. Because Spy Party is one of those weird games where a lot of the game is played in the heads of the players. Like,
Yeah.
not to an extent of like chess, but
Or rock,
it
paper, scissors.
is it is very much a poker like thing where a lot of the strategy is going on in the heads of the people, and you can see what they're doing and what the actions are, and try to determine what they're thinking based off that, because you can see what the cards are that they have,
Hmm.
and whether or not they're bluffing and things like this. This is actually a really good analogy. I'm liking this. But you're never actually really going to get the true story unless you can hear them talking about it.
Hmm.
And especially in Spy Party, because people are hiding behind these poker faces with each other. You have snipers who are like deliberately moving their laser away from something so the spy won't think they're looking at them. Or you have spies who are like trying to show being in one area with like showing a green purloin coming off or something, and then trying to do something on the other end of the map. It's very much trying to read through poker faces at times.
Yeah, yeah, which adds to the texture of the game and the excitement, and and there's lots of those cool things you can do. I love when snipers highlight people without turning straight to them. They'll do it as they're
Yeah,
just sliding past to try and like trick the spy into. But then the spy knows that, and so whenever the sniper's just like circling around, they'll be like, "Oh, is that a highlight? What did I do recently?" Hmm.
yeah. But like the nicest thing I see people do is that they'll see the spy moving and they will set their laser down a little bit in front of them, and they'll just wait for them to walk through the
Yes,
laser and highlight.
or shoot,
Or shoot, yes, people love shooting like that.
especially when it's uh the pencil mustache guy because he goes flying backwards.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh god.
Actually, speaking of that, so this tournament that you and Warning Track had recently cast and did a really good job of, um, was
Thank you.
of was of new art levels, and so this was the first time we
Yes.
had like a competition involving new art. Um, like from watching and casting all these games, like how balanced do you think the new art characters and environments are so far?
Um I think overall,
You may be brutally
because
honest.
everybody has their own animations and stuff, it has gotten a bit easier for the spy to do things compared to the old art. It's not a huge buff, but it's definitely there.
Hmm.
But it also adds an entirely new level of depth that I think was completely unintended, at least so far, as to like even just now. We even saw some of this in the old art, but different characters are very good at different things.
Yeah.
Like, the most obvious and well known bug is Papa Danger's cane side bug. Like, that is something people have known for a very long time. Alice is incredibly fast compared to people, whereas Mrs. White is very slow. But being very slow makes her very good at doing walking bugs and hiding that arm. And there are all these little things, like Wheels. He's so low to the ground that he can sometimes get away with murder because he has so much cover from stuff.
Hmm. Or then those characters have relationships to other characters. Like, say you want to transfer microphone with someone standing beside you so that they hide your head turning. If you're standing next
Hopefully
to
it's Taft.
Wheels,
Taft is massive.
yeah. But if you're standing next to Wheels, your head is like clearly visible next to him
Yeah.
because he's like a
Wheels
foot
doesn't
shorter.
give you any cover.
Yeah. So there's so it's sort of a wide open space now, but I think it's important for us to sort of feel out what is working and what isn't, and I think like what direction we want to push it in. Like what what do we define as balanced for Spy Party? Because we also have
Yeah.
the other problem that the game kind of auto balances itself by the fact that players switch roles and things that are OP um, get noticed more.
See, I don't think that's necessarily a problem though, because it creates the. I guess I'm going to say it creates um, a bit more freedom to be able to play with mechanics and stuff because this is like such a new sort of game. It's
Yeah,
very unexplored territory. Having a setup where it's okay for one side to be stronger than the other, I think is a very good thing for a game like Spy Party because it gives you so much more room to experiment. And another thing is, on the same topic, um, even though the um, the spy is harder to win as uh, than the sniper, I think it's more fun to lose as the spy than it is to lose as the sniper.
yeah. Or when you lose as the sniper, you feel like, ah, he got me. That was good of him.
Yeah, I feel. My worry is I feel like if the two sides were completely evenly matched, um, especially at the higher levels, I feel like if we made this two sides really evenly matched at the high levels for the new players, uh, playing sniper would be so hard.
Yeah,
Like even with game type handicapping, I feel like people would have a difficult time, like even more so than they do now with the sniper role.
mm.
And honestly, if they were completely evenly matched, um, I think I think it would be
Well, you'd lose the
maybe
underdog quality.
yeah, that's
That's part of
true.
what makes it fun, especially for casting, is the spy's an underdog, and so like you guys talked about this, is that for a tournament for casting, that means that you have this cool ebb and flow where you're trying to break serve. Like people can
Yeah,
be going neck and neck, but like okay, someone needs to pull forward with a spy win, and that's
yeah.
a hard thing that everyone knows.
Yeah. And then occasionally you'll get sets where the spies are doing really well, and it just feels amazing because it's like a heavyweight fight and they're just trading blows back and forth.
Yeah,
And it gives a new dynamic to things, especially as you were saying, as concerned with casting.
yeah, agreed. Um, I think all that's true, but I still feel like so the asymmetry of difficulty I think is like part of the aesthetic that we want. But
Yeah.
I think we also want to like think hard about like okay, what do we want the new art to be doing that we think it could be doing better?
Yeah.
So like say the idea that um, things have this like calibrated level of obscurity which feeds into the sniper's whole thing of I'm making a trade-off, I'm making a tactical decision to look at this thing and have this thing in my periphery or blocked. Um,
Yes.
so I think it's still important to have like a discussion about what is balanced talking animation, what is balanced bugging.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Um, and but I think as well that's another thing that plays into the individual characters very well. Like Mrs. White, despite being so slow, has a very subtle talking animation.
Hmm.
So she can get away with a lot, like especially from behind. Like hers, I think might even be a little bit too subtle. Um, the general is just like he's just there, and you can see what he's doing all the damn time because he's the frickin' general, and he's like really over the top and stuff, which is great. Um, and I
It yeah.
think
It
I
also kind of
think,
hides his bug. His shoulders are so wide that his arm
yeah.
barely moves out when he bugs.
Um, but I do think that maybe we can afford to make the talking animations perhaps a little bit more exaggerated as compared to the idle animations just in general, because I feel like anything we might lose from that, if anything at all, we would make up in spades when things like dossiers come around.
Hmm. Well, did you hear Viri came on the show and made a very smart suggestion. He said to like have more consistency between the characters' talk animations. Have their talk animations have a pose that like three iconic poses in the animation, one at the beginning, one at the middle, and one at the end, so that a sniper can glance and know where in a talk animation somebody is, and it helps them like keep track of who's talking and when.
That might be awesome, but it also might make the characters feel less like their own characters.
Well,
And
they would be their own distinct poses, but
yeah,
I guess I see your point is that everyone would have a one, two, three.
making things
Yeah,
more uniform makes people, in a general sense, feel less like their own people. Like,
mm,
if you put a bunch of people in a room and you want to make them feel as much like they're not their own personalities as possible. What you do is you dress them the same, so they all look more or less the same, so they all feel the same.
right.
But so the more different the characters are from each other in every way possible, I think that really hammers home um, the fact that this is a game about people. It
Yeah,
really is, in every sense of the term.
yeah,
And for
that's pretty good.
gameplay, I could see it being a bit better for like to have something like Viri said, where you have these distinct poses. But at the same time, that's something that is incredibly difficult to just throw in and test. Because you have to make a new set of talking animations with these poses in them for every single character in the game,
Yeah.
and maybe not even wind up sticking with them. So that's the kind of thing that's very difficult to just test run.
Hmm. Hmm. That's a really good point. Yeah. Thank you for coming on the show. That was a really, really well elaborated point. That
Oh, you're welcome.
so good job, you. So then, maybe something like I don't know, adjusting the idle animations to like adjust their contrast to talk animations. Maybe that would.
That might be a better way of going about it.
Hmm.
Um,
I mean
I'm
that.
not. I'm not
Yeah, that's still
real
true.
like animation is not something I can do with any sort of proficiency whatsoever. So I don't really know how much goes into these animations, but I know it's a lot.
It's a lot, yes.
I think idle animations would be considerably easier than a talking animation would be, but
Well, not necessarily because smaller differences, like um, animation is kind of in large part a problem where you are trying to organize information and present it
yeah,
in a certain way. And so when you're trying to create like a feeling or an expression that is made up of small changes of positioning, that's actually harder to do because
yeah,
it's less
okay,
iconic in your mind than like big changes of this pose to this pose.
okay. Changing animations, I think, is going to be a tough sell no matter how you put it.
Yeah, we all have a lot of sympathy for John and his
Oh,
extraordinary
yes.
challenge.
Yeah, the amount of the stuff he has put out for Spy Party just completely blows my mind so far, and there's only more to come.
Yeah. New five characters coming soon? Well, I mean,
Coming soon, yeah.
pictures of new. Yeah.
I'm excited for that.
Aren't we all? Yes. And pub. We're gonna get a pub.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome. Oh man, I cannot wait to get in and play that thing.
Hmm. Actually, that's been kind of cool. But before we go, let's talk a little bit, not necessarily about pub, but about how so this is a new level that hasn't been released yet, called pub.
Yes.
It's not out in the beta yet, but Chris and Zero TKA have been playing it in a private lobby, and then streaming it on Tuesdays.
It
And it's
looks
been
so interesting.
yeah, but it's been interesting because sort of as we've been talking about, like you learn how to play by watching people cast, or you can. It's actually kind of been a place where experienced players have been going to judge the balance of a level that they can't even play.
Yeah. It's it's been like there's no way I think we can really pass judgment on it, like, or even come close to, until we've actually got our hands on the thing for a while.
Hmm.
But I'm really excited about the way the new purloin works, because there's going to be a lot of different stuff to look at, because you're not just paying attention to the tray and who was getting a drink and what the reject rate is like. You're not doing any of that now. Now what you're doing is tracking the people who come away from the bar and seeing if anyone from their conversations then go to the bar.
Hmm.
It
It's a
seems like it's going to be like almost a separate mission entirely, and I'm very excited to see how it plays.
yeah. But like, have you been watching any of the streams of them playing?
I have been watching. I haven't seen all of them, but I've seen a
Right.
good number of them.
But you've watched them playing. So like,
Yeah.
do, like, are you able to do that thing where like watching somebody play, you're kind of like playing in your head, making a judgment of like how difficult or how interesting like certain situations are?
Yes. Especially from the sniper side. Um, when I'm watching a spy play, I kind of go into play-by-play mode. But when you're watching things from the sniper side, it is very easy to. And this is one of the great things about Spy Party. When you're watching from the sniper side, you can kind of play along.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have been able to kind of get a sense of how things work, and I feel like I feel like it might start to get a little bit difficult to do once people get used to watching it. But right now, it's cool and it's new and it seems quite balanced. Maybe even a tad spy favored right now, but I think that's just because we're not used to it yet.
Hmm. Well, there's a bit more sort of behavioral softness to it compared to previous Purloin because it's about like the relationship between people in conversation circles
Yeah,
and people at the bar, which is
yeah.
yeah, less you have less certainty than you do in like who rejected.
Yeah, I'll say this. Whether or not it winds up being well balanced the way it is, it definitely feels amazing. And I haven't even done it yet, but it just feels like
You can
the
tell.
kind of mission you want to see in Spy Party. It's got the exact kind of spy movie sort of finesse and subtlety to it. It's perfect. I love it.
Awesome. Great. That's a high note to go out on. Is there anything else you wanted to chat about?
Not that comes to mind. I think we covered our bases quite well. Thanks
Cool.
for having me on, by the way. This
Hey,
was a
no
lot of
problem.
fun.
Awesome. Yeah, it was great having you on. I figured after you and Warning Track did the cast, I was like, he probably has lots of interesting stuff to say. I should get him on the show. So
Well,
thanks for coming.
I certainly felt like I said a lot of relatively interesting things. So, success there, at least from my end.
Awesome. We didn't get you to say "Oh God" the par thing.
No, that didn't happen today. Oh man.
That is kind of cool that you basically have a catchphrase by this point
Yeah,
for
it
other
is.
people
I
making
did. I
mistakes.
did manage to go through an entire glass of water during this, though.
Oh wow.
Yep,
Yeah, I should have
I
brought
drink a
water.
lot of water.
Ugh.
People know that.
Well, it's a sensible thing to do, especially when you're talking. I should have
Yeah.
done that. Now I'm thirsty. Damn it. Better
Sorry.
go drink some water. All right. Anyway, thank you, Toboshi, very much for coming on the show.
Thank you. I really enjoyed this.
Awesome. All right. Take care, everybody.